Ladies and gentlemen, so today I wanted to give my early thoughts on the addition of Void to Marvel Contest of Champions and talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of this character and kind of what to expect and whether or not, he's worth going for. And if you are going for him, a couple of very important things that you need to keep in mind about this character. But if you're wondering, Seatin, how have you gotten, early access to Void? It was via the Content Creator Program, which is like this new initiative that Kabam have been doing over the last few months, which gives YouTubers, providing you over, I think it's like 1,000 subscribers or something, you can apply to this program and get temporary access to brand new characters just before they're released for like review and testing purposes. So yeah, if you're like, Seatin, how did you get Void? We've only got temporary access to the character, it's not permanent at all, and I can't use this dude in like Arena, Alliance Quest, or Alliance War, so I haven't been able to test in like those three modes of gameplay specifically, and I think Alliance War is one of the areas that I'm very, very curious about Void, so I'm interested after this character's kind of like main release to see how this character is going to perform in Alliance War, because again, none of the content creators, we can't take Void into Alliance War and actually see practically how he's going to work against some more stacked PvP champions, and I think for me that's one of the biggest question marks about the character. But overall, just flatline it, I really, really like Void. I feel like Void is the perfect example of what a new champion should be in Marvel Contest of Champions. He has some very, very distinct uses, some great utility, has some really awesome damage output, he's not overpowered in every scenario, he has his weaknesses, and there are definitely matchups where you want to take other champions instead of Void, but in the right scenarios, he can be an absolutely game-changing character, but still, I feel like he's a little bit weaker, generally speaking, than I thought he would be. Not hitting quite as hard generally, he's got some decent damage, but it's nothing game-changing or insane in comparison to some of the hardest hitters like, Archangel, Stark Spider-Man, Medusa, Star-Lord. He's kind of like a tier behind that. If you look at, like, the Void Realm of Legends kills and then look at, like, Thor Ragnarok, the damage is so similar. Thor Ragnarok with the Hulk synergy, that is kind of the general, like, long fight damage output that you're looking at with a Void. And in a way, oddly, both of the characters, they have some sort of similarity in the fact that they're both a bit slower champions. They have a little bit ramp up, but overall I would say that I prefer Void, and Void is generally speaking a better character. But anyway, let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this character, because that's what we need to get into. So the first one, which is a really, really big one at the moment, he's amazing for fighting Mephistos. This dude is just like the perfect ultimate Mephisto character counter. He has naturally incinerate immunity, so that is amazing versus Mephisto. And also via his petrified debuffs, he can reduce the effectiveness of power gain and regeneration, and when you get Fear of the Void and more petrified stacks, he can actually start reversing both power gain and regeneration. So just absolutely Mephisto, like, makes every single Mephisto this dude encounters his bitch. So yeah, big win in terms of like a champion that's generally all around very, very good for fighting Mephistos. He is insane in any fight where he can build up and then reverse the healing. So fights where a huge amount of healing is a really, really big factor. So we're talking Realm of Legends Wolverine is the kind of perfect golden example of a fight where he excels at. And if you haven't seen the videos, we've got one on the channel, and you'll really see kind of how just crazy it gets toward the end of that fight. He's also very, very good for a lot of the vitality paths in Act 5, where regeneration is a really, really big thing, and the buffet paths as well, he's really, really decent for. And I think when it comes to Alliance War, node 24 in particular, in the, tier 1 Alliance Wars, that's the 200% regeneration node, along with, I believe it's Masochism, or I think it's actually buffet on that one, and that one is just a massive pain in the ass to deal with, and I think Void, he's just going to be the solution, the answer for whatever you find on that node. So yeah, he's just really, really good for a scenario like that. Again, he has pretty good overall damage. It is not quite the best, but it's nowhere near the worst either. Like, it's really, really decent damage, but only once you've built up to and have passed the first Fear of the Void. He also has nice utility of reducing evade. He's not really a super effective evade counter, just due to the amount of time he takes to, you know, build up the ability accuracy reduction to evade. I think champions like Iceman and Archangel and like Black Widow, Elektra are generally speaking going to be significantly better options for dealing with stuff like evade. But, you know, he's got that little bit of additional utility thrown in there, and certainly, you know, helps reduce the chance of evade proccing in some fights, so that's all right there. And also another one is he has a very large health pool. I believe this character or champion might actually have one of the biggest health pools in the entire game. As you can see, my 4-star one, this is with the Glass Cannon Mastery, which actually reduces health, has 17,380 and has a 4-star 550. And if we compare that to another really chunky science character in terms of health, Hulk, you'll see Hulk, you know, in my mastery setup just has under 16,000. So yeah, Void has like a really chunky base pool, and in comparison to Quake, who has just under 14,000, like it's quite a nice health difference. And you know, if you take this champion to fight Magix in Alliance War, which is another matchup, you know, these potentially good for, but again, there is a bit of a slow ramp up on this character, and that kind of leads us into some of the cons of this champion. So I think the very first con, which is kind of a double one, and this is something you need to keep in mind, very important. Void, if you want to play this character, not only needs to be awakened, his awakened ability is so insanely valuable, because his awakened ability does 2 stuff when all of his debuffs reach a total of like 2 stacks each. So, you know, there are 6 debuffs on the opponent, they all combine to make Fear of the Void, but if you don't have him awakened, instead of combining to make this mega debuff where you get all the effects and a huge increase to your attack, it just expires. And also, the second part of his awakened ability is that you generate the debuffs on the opponent much faster. So if you don't have him awakened, then your attack and damage is just going to be pretty wank for the majority of the fight. It's just not really going to ramp up anywhere, and your debuffs, they're not going to stack. You're not going to have any potential to reverse healing or power gain. So it's very important, in my opinion. I would not play this champion unawakened, and simultaneously, when you have him awakened, you actually as well need to get him to a very high signature level, because the signature level increases the attack bonus that you get when you have the Fear of the Void debuff on the opponent, and simultaneously makes your intimidating presence debuffs grant faster and apply quicker to the enemy, and that's very important. On a 5-star one, I believe it's up to 60% faster, and yeah, that is just an insane difference to the damage output and playstyle of this character, because all of this stuff, it really mashes together. So he's very reliant on not only being awakened, but also having a very high signature level. If as a 4-star, you're gonna want to look at least like 60 signature stones into him, and if you're going for a 5-star, you need to have, I would say, at least 100 at the ready if you want to get a good level of effectiveness out of this character. So yeah, just be prepared if you are going for Void, which, you know, if I wouldn't say is the best option if you don't already have a blade. Don't go for him unless you can awaken him and chuck at least 100 stones into the 5-star version of the character. So that would be my advice there. And the next con of the character, and this is something that we've already talked about a little bit, is kind of the ramp up time, because Void, he isn't really doing a huge amount until you've got all of your intimidating presence debuffs on him at least once, and you get Fear of the Void, and you get that huge attack bonus, and then you can start, you know, getting into the slightly more crazy stuff where you are reversing the healing and power gain via the Petrify debuff. So yeah, there is kind of like this 30 to 40 second ramp up time. It kind of depends, you know, how aggressively you're playing. If you're firing off special ones, which from my experience playing this character, the best rotation, just at least on the 4-star version, where the signature effectiveness is slightly lower than what the 5-star can be, is just constantly spam the special one. Like that seems to be what this champion is all about for the most part. So yeah, you really need a good like 30-40 seconds to kind of ramp up and get to this Fear of the Void, so you can start reducing stuff and the opponents are gimped in terms of their regeneration and power gain. But that does take it takes a while, and I'm not too sure how effective that is going to be when it comes to really, really difficult Alliance War matchups, and I'm not too sure in what fights Void is theoretically going to be a better option over Blade. I do see, when it comes to really, really stacked Mephisto bosses in Alliance War, I see Void potentially being by far the best, well, not by far the best option, but a slightly better option than Blade. But that, you know, when it comes to like Magic's, Dormammu's, I think he's going to be a little bit slower. I don't think against the MODOK matchup he has too much of an advantage, and I think that's some of the stuff that we are generally seeing in the Tier 1 Alliance Wars at the moment. So yeah, really, really good for Mephisto, but I'm a little bit concerned about the slowness of this character to get to that initial Fear of the Void. You know, 30-40 seconds is quite a long time when you're in these very, very aggressive Alliance War fights to kind of dance around the opponent and not really do a huge amount of damage or really have much utility in that time frame. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about this character's use in Alliance War, but I think when it comes to Alliance Quest and boss killing, I think he's going to be actually amazing. He'll be really, really good for Mordo, really good for Cable, very good for fighting Dormammu's as well. So yeah, that's a potential con of the character. Dormammu's in Alliance Quest when they don't have their Awaken ability. Just wanted to quickly specify that. And also 2 additional cons. Now, this champion as a 4-star has very, very low base attack in comparison to other characters because, you know, he gains a huge amount of attack via his signature ability. So I believe if you have this champion as a 5-star rank 4, you will not be able to extend the Labyrinth of Legends and Rage Timer, and also I believe the way that Maestro's enigmatic ability versus Science Champions functions, he's just going to shrug off debuffs Maestro, so Void I don't think is going to be very, very effective, generally speaking, for... You know, if you wanted to go for this champion, awaken him, use him in Labyrinth of Legends, I don't really think that's what you're after, unless you get, you know, get this dude all the way up to rank 5, level 65. In that case, he might be alright, but again, you're still going to have a very, very bad matchup versus Maestro. But one of his potential pros, specifically referring to Labyrinth of Legends, is I think even the 4-star one, a dupe level 99, you're going to be able to potentially, if you get a little bit lucky with some of the procs, I reckon you could take X23 out in Labyrinth of Legends and maybe 1 or 2 revives. It's a lot of luck depending on how quickly you get those Petrify debuffs, which cancel out the regeneration, but I think it is possible because with a 4-star, you know, you have like 3 and a bit minutes on the Labyrinth and Rage Timer, so you know, you have this 30-40 seconds of ramping up, probably like a minute or so before you get to the reversal, and then you've got like 2 and a bit minutes of just laying into the X23, like reversing all of the regeneration there, so potentially might be quite good for that matchup. And he might be alright for Venom Paw as well in Labyrinth of Legends, but yeah, I'm not really too sure about that one. But X23, I think, it's definitely a fight, well, maybe a fight where we can see his effectiveness. Again, like, I don't want to say for 100% before I've seen this character, but if you get a Void, if you are planning on doing Labyrinth just for a little bit of fun, I believe he should work, unless there is something that I'm missing, in which case feel free to point out in the comments below. But theoretically speaking, I don't see any potential downside to that strategy at the moment, and theoretically it should be easier to do than Guillotine. So yeah, potentially could be quite good there. And the final con of the character, if the target is debuff immune, which we see quite a bit in Alliance War, he's going to be very, very useless. Like, you know, you're not going to get the increased attack bonus, you're not going to get a lot of his utility, so yeah, debuff immune scenarios, he's really not going to be bringing too much to the table, just some fairly weak base attack, because he's got some very, very low attack, so yeah, but also in terms of Void synergies as well, because one of the things that I was thinking about Void, is he going to rely on the Sentry synergy, and I've played with the Sentry and Hulk synergy, and personally, I'm not a fan. I really do not like it at all. So essentially the synergy is with Hulk is he gains a heavier, up to 3 Fury buffs, each enhancing his attack rating by 20% for 8 seconds when charging a heavy attack. But also when you combine this with Sentry, when activating his special 3, the Void gains a Reality Warp charge for 30 seconds, increasing the duration of any Fury buffs acted afterwards by 20 seconds. So essentially can, if you use a special 3, you can get like 60% additional attack, but I feel like this subtracts a significant amount of damage, because that's like the opportunity cost of free special ones, a lot of debuffs, and time out of the fight, and that is going to mean that you are never going to be in an opportunity where you can get 2 stacks of Fear of the Void, and Fear of the Void, you know, once you've got that up, that's like 120% attack bonus, yeah, plus the additional utility that the debuffs provide. So yeah, I just found that like Sentry and Hulk synergy just really impractical to use as well, because charging a heavy attack, that's very annoying to get off as well, and I feel like just kind of takes a little bit out of the rotation. And finally, we got a little bit of crit with 4 and Doctor Strange, but playing this champion, generally speaking, I've just been using the X-Men crit team synergy, and that's been working out pretty well for his damage, but I'm sure there's maybe some slightly more interesting combos of synergy that I can't really think of off the top of my head. But if you have any interesting synergy shouts of Void, let me know, ladies and gentlemen. But apart from that, to summarize, I really like Void. I feel like he's a fantastic champion for fighting Mephistos, and whenever regeneration is a really huge factor. These are the 2 scenarios where he's just an absolute triumph of a character, and I think overall he's a really good addition to the game. I just keep in mind some of the cons of the character, that he needs to be awakened, you need to have a very high signature level if you want him to function and play really well, and he does have a bit of a long ramp up time to get into any fight. But overall, I think he's a good addition to Marvel Contest of Champions, definitely 10 times better than I perceive Sentry. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of Void in the comments below. If you like the video, feel free to smash that like button. If I've missed anything or you have an additional perspective to bring to the table, let me know in the comments below. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching, take care, and have an absolutely fantastic day.